How do you mix synthwave bass so it sounds rich, punchy, and analog? That's what I'm going to share with you in this video. Hey, I'm Reagan Ram with Orpheus Audio Academy, and I'm a synthwave fanatic, and so you have come to the right place for all things synthwave, so be sure to hit subscribe. So I've got this track here, and I've got a couple of basses, so we're going to break these down real quick. First off, I'm using some free presets you can grab. These are made by my friend Alonzo with Synthwave Dojo. If you want to grab these and a whole bunch of other amazing synthwave presets, samples, guides, and more, then just grab my free Synthwave starter pack. Click in the description below to grab that, or go to orpheusaudioacademy.com/starter pack, and I'll share with you a link to a bunch of Alonzo's awesome freebies. So I'm using bass Fat Line 2 and bass Fat Line 4, I think, from his free pack. Yeah. And so we'll just listen to these without any effects on. Pretty simple. And I got this one. Pretty simple. How do we go about mixing these then? So starting with the first bass, I just add some 1176 compression. So if you have like your DAW has like a free version of this, you can pull this up, or if you have any, there's so many out there, you can grab and pull a bunch of them. So I'm using 1176 style compression. All right, there's tons of these out there. Logic actually has a free one. So Analog Obsession, I think, has like a free one. So something like that. Doesn't really matter what compressor you're using. So typically you want like a medium to medium fast release and like a medium attack. I'm doing a little bit of a faster attack here. And so with this compressor, right, it's backwards, right? Faster is up here at the right and slower is down at the bottom. And then I'm just applying like 5 to 6 dB, I think, of compression. So we'll see. Three to 5. So then we'll hear this with it off and with it on. So just kind of like warms it up, beefs it up a little bit. And then this is a big one, adding Tal Chorus. This will give you a nice wide retro sounding bass. This is a free plugin. We'll hear it before and after. Pretty cool. And just like that, you have a pretty good sounding bass, right? You choose the right sample sound, just add a little bit of EQ, some chorus, or compression and some chorus, you're pretty good. There's not really a whole lot you're going to do. That's what you kind of want to avoid, like over mixing if you can, just as kind of a random aside, especially when you're using like really good sounds, you're using samples, you're using virtual instruments, right? These need a whole lot less in general. Work on them, like compression and EQ and so on, because they already sound great, versus if you're like working with like live instruments. And so then I got the other one here, and I turn this into a mono bass because I just want it to be like the sub. I really want to have a controlled sub bass. I don't want it to get too muddy. So I just flip this to mono. So it sounds pretty bad by itself, but together we'll have it, we'll demo it on and off. So this is without the mono. So to my ears, you're still getting the nice wide plucky bass on top, but if you listen to the sub bass, it narrows and gets more focused and more clear and less kind of mushy. And then I'm just adding some EQ to this, bringing out some of the high mids and bringing down the highs, and then boosting those low frequencies. So that sounds pretty good. And then again, add some compression to it. Fairly similar settings. Now, you also hear some automation in here, so I should point that out, that I'm slowly bringing up the filter cutoff. That's more of a stylistic thing, but that's a big thing. Moving from the verses to the choruses to have that filter opening up. So that's what you're seeing going on there. So that's it for the individual tracks. Pretty simple. Then we have the bass bus, where I just have some like vintage EQ. You can just use a regular channel strip EQ or just find something that's more analog. So as much as I can, I'm trying to add more analog color to everything. So we're just high passing everything below 50, because in the 80s you didn't have all that super low bass. Even today in modern music, you don't really need too much of that. It gets really rumbly unless you're making stuff for like giant club stuff like that. And I'm boosting a bit at 220, like 2 dB. Probably could do like this. So definitely beefs it up. Then I added some bus compression. I'm using the Buster SE by Analog Obsession. So this is a solid state bus compressor, kind of like trying to mimic the bus compressor on the SSL console. And so I'm just adding some like glue compression. And so I'm using a slow attack. Normally you'd want it like a fast release, but we just have it on auto here, and a 2-to-1 ratio, so it's very subtle. So I feel like it just kind of brings everything forward a little bit more. It's also, I'm using this X-Former here, which I haven't used this plugin very much. I was kind of experimenting with it, but it's supposed to let you tweak the transients, and it does. I feel like it gives it a bit more pluck on those transients. And then this is kind of optional. I'm just adding a little bit of parallel compression and parallel saturation. Very subtle, using the parallel aggressor by Baby Audio, but you can easily set this up yourself. On the bus here, you just send it off to an auxiliary track, put some really heavy compression on it, and then blend it in. Send it off to another auxiliary track, put heavy compression on, and then blend it in. But it's just faster and easier to use this plugin. And it's very subtle. You can see the levels of compression and saturation are pretty low. And then we're also preserving the low end, so we're not adding any compression or saturation to that low end, because that can make it really muddy. So we'll listen to this before and after. So that's the heat we're adding, very subtle. And this is the the compression. So then just beefs it up, gives it more rich energy. And so then this is with the bus, all the bus plugins off. Just a whole lot warmer and grittier and more forward. Now, speaking of really cool synthwave bass and synthwave sounds in general, I highly recommend the LANDR sample library. There's some really awesome synthwave samples in here. So if you're looking to add some more really cool sounds to your production, you should check out some of these. So I just filtered by synthwave and bass, and you can see there's a ton in here. There's 3,700 results. So let's listen to some of these. Different. And of course, we can take off bass, and you get a whole bunch of other amazing synth stuff. You know, like drums, hi-hat there, reverse clap riser. And ARP. And 10 more, right? If we just look at just Synthwave, there's over 30,000 samples in here. So you could be here and here all day. This is absolutely incredible. So if you just want to grab yourself some samples real quick, you can sign up with their monthly plan, which is $8 a month. You can cancel at any time, and you immediately get 100 samples that you can grab, or you can pay yearly to save yourself some money. I personally have the LANDR Studio plan, which not only gives me all the samples, but it gives me tons of plugins, distribution, collaboration tools, courses, and a whole lot more. So if you want to check this out and you want to get some of these awesome samples and save yourself some money, just use my link. Go to orpheusaudioacademy.com/LANDR. Also, that link's below, and you can get yourself some really awesome synthwave sounds. Now, speaking of synthwave bass, if you want to know how to create the most iconic synth bass sound that is used in synthwave, then click on my video on the screen right now, where I'll dive into actually sound design inside of the free synth, vital for creating synthwave bass. See you over there.